Hello, hello everyone. Welcome in, welcome in. We are going to start in a sec. While we wait for some more people to join, go ahead and type in the city and the country that you're calling in from today into the chat. Let's see what all cool places people are calling in from today. I am joining from London. It's quite sunny and pleasant today. All right, we're getting a few responses. Nice. We're covering in Western and Central Europe. That's pretty cool. All right, so let's kick off. Thank you for joining in the webinar on Bitrise Insights. First, some housekeeping. If you have any questions, I would encourage you to put them into the Q&A section on Zoom itself. And I'll try and get through as many questions as I can towards the end. Otherwise, I will definitely follow up on those after the call. So yeah, please get your questions in. Let me start with sharing my screen. All right, so you should be able to see my browser window, and I'm going to start the slideshow. All right, so a little bit about me before we start. My name is Kaushal. I am a product manager at Bitrise. I'm currently looking after Bitrise Insights. Previously, I helped product manage some popular consumer mobile apps, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn if you like. And moving on to the agenda for today. So here's what we'll cover today. We'll start with a quick note on setting up Bitrise Insights, followed by seeing the big picture of your CI/CD data and making sense of that. Then we'll go to, from seeing the big picture, we'll then go all the way down into the details of your CI/CD builds. So again, going from big picture view to getting down to the weeds. After that, we'll show you how you can create your own dashboards with Bitrise, followed by a quick summary of how Bitrise alerts work. I have to say our customers love Bitrise alerts, and I enjoy talking about it. So we'll be spending a few minutes on that, and we'll end it with a summary of caching insights. So this is quite new to Bitrise Insights, and it'll be interesting to cover that today. So that's the agenda for today. Let's start with a quick few comments on setting up. So on that note, I have two quick questions for you all. First is, what's your most important CI/CD metric? On your Zoom, you should be able to see this question come up, and you should have a few options to choose from. So go ahead and pick a metric of your choice. All right, if you're seeing the votes come in now, it's a nice split across build times, failure rate, and release frequency, with the number one being the most favorite metric being build times. So yeah, thanks for your thoughts on that. My next question is around the tooling that you use to measure your build times or failure rates. So again, you'll see another question pop up on your Zoom. If you can quickly vote for the answer that's relevant. All right, we've got about half of the participants respond. I'll wait for the rest. I think this is an interesting question to cover, which is why I want to give you all the time. All right, a couple more left. To those who have just joined in, there is a question that should have popped up on your Zoom. Take a look and we'll quickly finish the poll. All right, I'm going to end the poll. We are over a minute and we're seeing some interesting results. So I'm able to see that roughly 40% of you don't actively track your build times. Some of you, or very few of you, actually use a combination of tools such as Grafana, Datadog, or similar. And for some of you, your CI/CD tool provides the native analytics and monitoring, which is why you don't use any other tools, which is an interesting spread. So on that note, I'm going to move on the presentation. So Bitrise Insights, the good news is that Bitrise Insights requires no setup. It just works. And what we mean by that is, or rather to add some more context here, we understand that mobile devs, generally speaking, have a lot on their plate, that sometimes even the most important things, such as say your build analytics, get sidelined because they're just painful to set up. And we at Bitrise Insights, we pride ourselves in this. If you use some of the mainstream CI/CD products, you either have no analytics or you have a limited set of analytics provided by your CI/CD provider. And typically what that would mean is that you would need to build that out yourself, build those capabilities out yourself using some plugins or databases or some sort of visualization tools out there. Alternatively, you could just run your builds on Bitrise and Insights would do all the heavy lifting for you. Insights would give you all the monitoring, analytics, trends, alerts, all of which would be out of the box, meaning you don't need any additional setup beyond just adding your app to Bitrise and running builds. So on that note, let's dive into the product itself. And I'm gonna switch my screen share to show the product in action very, very shortly. So let me quickly open up another tab and let's talk through what you see here. So this is what the home screen of Bitrise Insights looks like. So on the left, I have a navigation panel. So we are currently looking at an overview. So this is where you are able to see some of your headline metrics, such as your successful build time, your build failure rate, among others. An interesting thing to note here is that we show you this data at two different levels, at your workspace level and also at your app level. So these two charts, so the first one being at the workspace level and the other one being at your app level. So typically a workspace might have multiple apps. For example, you might have an iOS app and an Android app, all part of the same workspace, or it could very well be different apps altogether. Let's say you're an app agency and you have multiple clients. And so within a workspace, you might have multiple apps and you might want to see data for those separately. Another interesting thing I want to call out here is that we tell you if these metrics are trending right or not. So green is good. Green means the metric is trending better. Red is bad. You don't see any reds here yet. So yeah, we will talk about it whenever you see red. But if you see a red arrow or a red number here, it just means that your metric is getting worse. So Bitrise Insights makes it easy for you to interpret the change itself. So you don't have to do the math, basically. Another thing to note here is that on the right top, you're able to set the time window and the frequency of the data. So I can, I have some quick selection for the time windows, and I can also set a custom selection if I just want to see the numbers between certain dates. So that's the overview tab. I'm going to skip dashboards and bottlenecks for now. We're going to come back to those a bit later. Let's move on to the builds section. So here you're looking at your build metrics, and for us this includes your top build time. It says P90 here, and that basically refers to to the top 90 percentile builds that you're running. We also show you the build duration, the failure rate, build count, and the total duration of all your build runs. Now it's important to note that when you're looking at these trends, the time window matters. So many of our customers, they like to see the big picture, especially if you're a DevOps professional, meaning your KPIs are generally around improvement in your DevOps capabilities. In that case, the question you are looking to answer is your team getting more productive? Are your metrics trending right? And as I said earlier, green is good, red is bad. And over here, you're able to see some arrows which will tell you that your metrics are trending good. If I were to maybe select a certain app from this selection and see the numbers there, again, I'm able to see the numbers just for that specific app and so on. And again, if I switch the app there, I'm able to see the metrics for the second app I have in this workspace. And over here, I'm able to see that there are a few red arrows here. A red arrow against a build time trending upward, meaning your build times have increased in the last 6 months. And similar story for your failure rate or your median build times. So yeah, again, it's important for you all to be able to get the big picture and assess if things are trending in the right direction. And I say this because let's say if we change the frequency to hourly, you will very likely see a lot of data which would be very hard to make sense of. And so yeah, you'll typically see a lot of zigzag lines. And it's as I said, it's really hard to make sense of this because there's just a lot of variance. And which is why we advise our customers to start with a big picture, start with a weekly or a monthly trend. And if I quickly switch back to my slides here, when you're looking at trends over a period of time, it normalizes your hourly and daily data because typically your build performance will vary by what team you're looking at, or the nature of the code changes you're shipping. If it's a hot fix, maybe changes that may not have such an impact. But if you're shipping a new feature which is quite chunky, it might significantly impact your CI/CD times. It could also depend on the stack you're using. If you're using a really fast machine, chances are your build times will be faster and such. And so, which is why looking at hourly and daily data, it might skew your decision making. So that's a little note on seeing the big picture on Bitrise Insights. Next, we'll take a look at digging deeper into the details. So this is where, at least for me, the real fun begins. So we looked at trends, and now what we'll do is we'll identify an area which needs improvements in a trend, or rather an area where we saw some sort of a spike in some of our metrics, and we'll see how we go all the way up to the log in just a matter of a few clicks. So I'm going to open up another link here. All right, so let us start with, let me just ensure I've got the right app selected. And we should be looking at weekly in the last 12 weeks. All right, so So let's say I'm looking at the failure rate across, let's start with the workspace, in fact. Let's say I'm looking at the failure rate across my workspace, and I'm able to see a trend somewhere between June and July where the failure rate spiked. And if I hover around the data point itself, it tells me it's the week of 10th of July, or the week between 10th of July and 17th of July. So by the way, these charts are interactive, meaning if I select these charts, it'll just zoom into that area. But that's not what we are looking at right now. So the next thing I want to do is figure out what happened in this week, or what contributed to this spike in the failure rate. So for that, I'm going to scroll down to this section called the breakdown, and I see the failure rate per app here. And more specifically, I'm able to see this purple line that's been trending upward. And specifically in that week of 10th of July and 17th of July, the failure rate spiked for this app. Similarly, it spiked 2 weeks before that. So if I scroll down, I'm able to see a weekly sort of the exact numbers in the form of a table over here. And given that I'm able to spot that we can attribute the spike in failure rate to this particular app, I'm going to look into this app here. So for that, I will click on this magnifying lens here, the search icon on the right, which will apply a filter for that app. And I'm able to see now the list of pipelines or workflows within that app. Now over here, I'm able to see that this has two, or rather there are two, one pipeline and one standalone workflow running in this app. And the high failure rate is probably because of this test standalone workflow. I mean, overall, the failure rate is high for the pipeline here as well. But I'm going to start with the test standalone workflow. So again, I'm going to zoom into it with this search icon here, and it will apply that filter for that workflow. And now I'm able to see a breakdown of the failures per step. So on Bitrise, you typically, when you run a build, it runs a specific workflow. And within a workflow, you have a set of steps which are executed. And so which is why looking at a failure rate per step helps, because that would allow you to find the step that is causing or that is failing the most. Now, in this case, I'm able to see there is one purple line here, which is trending the way we saw for the workflow itself. Now, this corresponds to this step called go test. And there are a bunch of other steps as well. I don't know if you are able to see, but for all of these other steps, it's a flat line. So there is a 0% failure rate, meaning all of these other steps are passing. It's only this step which has been failing. And I can also see that in the table view as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Go Test, and I'm able to basically apply that filter here. Now, at this point, what we've done so far is we've come all the way from the workspace all the way down to the step itself. And now I want to troubleshoot through the step failure itself. And in order to do that, I'm going to click on related builds here, and it will populate a list of all the builds that failed. And I am interested in a specific step, which is go test. So I'm going to select that step here. All right, so this gives me all of the failures from that step. And now the next step would be opening a particular failed run and looking at the report or the log from there. And in this case, it is the workflow failed because this step failed. So this is where this is how useful all of the filters are on Bitrise. You can start from a big picture view, looking at like a macro trend, a weekly or a monthly trend, and dig all the way deeper, deep down to the root cause itself. So we're not going to troubleshoot through the failed workflow runs here. I just wanted to share how the UI has been designed in a hierarchical way, which allows you to navigate from top level all the way down to the weeds. So that's one way in which you can dig deeper into the issues that you have. Another interesting way of going about it would be, let's say you don't have the time to look at these trends, right? Let's say you don't have the bandwidth to apply various filters here and such. And this is quite normal. Mobile devs usually have a lot on their plate. And so to save their time, we present them with bottlenecks. And this is where Bitrise does the prioritization for you. So here, for example, I'm able to see that my build time has been stable. My tests generally have stable metrics, but I'm able to see that this particular workflow has been failing 2/3 of the time. So I can then click on here, open that up, and then do the same, do an analysis similar to what I just showed a few minutes earlier, going all the way down to the build logs itself. So that's another way of troubleshooting. Just navigating to the bottlenecks tab if you don't have the time to look at your trends. Cool. So that brings me to the end of this section, which is digging deeper into the details. We're going to move on to the next section, which is dashboards. So we saw a bunch of metrics earlier in the call, and they may not all be important for you. Let's say you only care about your top 2 or 3 metrics. Maybe they are your key metrics, and everything else is perhaps just noise for you. In that case, you can create what we call as a dashboard, where you can see only these shortlisted metrics which matter to you. So the way to go about it is, again, I'm going to navigate to the bills tab, and let's say this metric, P90 successful build time, is important to me. I would click on this icon here, which says add to dashboard. And to begin with, I will need to create a new dashboard. Let's say I will call this Kaushal's top EICD metrics. And we are looking at weekly granularity over the last 3 months or 12 weeks. Let's create that. And I'm going to name this chart as my P90 build time. And from the drop down, I'm going to add it to the dashboard that I just created. And now if I go to the dashboard itself, I'm able to see just that metric. And another important thing I'd like to highlight is your team can have, or rather every member on your team can have a different dashboard. And every member can have multiple dashboards. So over here, for example, you're able to see a bunch of different dashboards which were previously created by other users on this workspace. So yeah, dashboards basically allow you to have a quick view of your top metrics. I am going to move on to the next item we have on the agenda, which is Bitrise alerts. And this is where, again, a lot of our customers really love the alerts capability we have within Bitrise Insights. And that's simply because a lot of our customers, they're practically living inside Xcode or Android Studio or GitHub or Bitbucket. And more often than not, they may not have the time or even a good reason to open up a new site or open up a new sort of tab on their browser and check what's going on there. So in those scenarios, you can set up an alert for a certain type of event and let Bitrise do the monitoring for you. So this the way to set it up would be, if I were to go back here, the way to set it up would be going all the way down to this section, alerts. And let's wait for it to load. And I'm going to create a new alert. So the first thing it asks me to do is choose a metric. So I'm going to say I'm interested in my build failure rate. And so on the right, I'm able to see a preview of this metric. And we'll see how that preview changes as we select more items here. The second thing it asks me to do is select the filters which apply to this alert. So let's say I am only interested in alerts for this app because I only work on this app, or my team only works on this app. And it asks me to add more filters or to select more filters here, but I'm okay for now. I think I've selected the specific app, and that's the level of abstraction I'm gonna go ahead with. But it's important to note that you can be very, very specific with the type of alert you are looking to set up. You can go all the way from the workspace to the step, even for branches, machine types, and stacks. The next thing it asks me to do is choose a threshold. Now, a threshold is basically the trigger for the alert. So I'm going to choose a threshold. So we're talking about the build failure rate. So ideally, I wouldn't want my build failure rate to be less than 100%. But let's say in the reality of things, it's usually around 70-80%. So let me choose a number, say 75% here. So you're able to see this threshold line here as well in the preview. And I'm going to say in the last, our least probably like too small of time window to be looking at. So let's stick with the last 24 hours. And I'm going to call this notification alert for when my failure rate is less than 75%. The next thing I would do is choose a notification provider. So whether it's over email that I'd like to be contacted on, or Slack, or Teams. I'm going to choose email for now, and I'll say contact me or send an alert to this email address when my build failure rate is less than 75%. And I can test the alert if I want to. I'm just going to go ahead and create the alert. So it now tells me the event history as well. So if I come back to this screen, I will be able to see when an alert was sent, or rather a history of all the occurrences of this trigger, all the times when this trigger was met and the alert was sent. I now basically just have to close Bitrise Insights and continue doing my work. And I know that if my builds fail more than I expect, then I will be contacted on my email. So that's how Bitrise alerts work. Another sort of small detail is if I want to set an alert without going to the alerts tab, is I can just, let's say I'm on this tab and I'm looking at my top build time. There is a shortcut to creating an alert on the top right. So I can, when I click on that icon, it opens up a similar form, and all the filters that were applied, the metric, all of that is pre-selected here. The preview is also auto-generated. So that's another faster way to create an alert for a metric that I'm interested in. I'm going to go back and let's look at caching insights. And to begin with, I have a question for the audience. So you should be able to see a poll come up on your Zoom very shortly on whether you use build caching in your builds right now. All right, we are over halfway through the poll. Okay, we're seeing roughly 60% of you have participated, and a majority of you do not use build caching. So what I'll do is I'll quickly share some context on build caching and Bitrise, and that will hopefully help set the stage for what you'll see next. Cool. So Bitrise offers a native build caching capability. So just to share a little more context on this, in 2022, so last year, Bitrise acquired a company called Flare Build Systems, which in a way supercharged our build caching capabilities. And Flare supports build caching across many of these latest advanced build systems. So whether it's Gradle, Twist, or Bazel, and what have you. And one more slide before we move on. A remote build cache, it improves your build time, not just for CI builds, but also for your local builds. And the way it does that is, let's say you just triggered a CI build. Before we actually run that build, we will check what parts of the build need to be run. If there is no change in, if there are only small changes in the build that, or since the last time the build was run, if there is only incremental change in the build, Bitrise will skip a majority of the execution. We will download any of the unchanged build outputs from the previous build run, which was uploaded to the remote build cache. And this way we are able to save a lot of your build time. The same principle applies for your local builds as well. So the remote build cache is accessible for your local builds. So that's a little bit of context on build caching. And I'm going to quickly share what caching insights looks like on Bitrise. So I am currently using an app, or I've chosen a workspace which does not use any build caching. So I'm going to change my workspace. And now if I go to caching, I should be able to see some data. All right, so we are seeing one metric here. It's called the cache hit rate. So as many of you might know, cache hit rate is one of the more sought after metrics in the caching world, and this metric basically indicates the percentage of times that a build artifact is found in the cache. So the higher your cache hit rate, the better. Meaning, if your cache hit rate is high, it indicates that the Bitrise build cache is effectively caching your frequently used dependencies and build artifacts, which again, as I said, can lead to significant reductions in your build times. And the lower the cache hit rate, the more room for improvement. And over here, you're able to see that the cache hit rate is roughly around the 30% mark, and it's been trending downwards. So at this point, just putting my DevOps hat on, I'm interested in knowing what is not being cached. So 30% seems quite low. Ideally, it should be high. It should be more than 50%. So in order to troubleshoot through that, again, I will probably go down to the there are various ways of troubleshooting your low cache hit rate. Using Bitrise Insights, you can look at the breakdown, and I'm able to see this app Unified CI, which has some data for the cache hit rate. So I'm going to continue applying filters for workflows, and now for steps, and should be able to see us. All right, so now having applied this combination of filters, I'm looking at this app and this workflow and this step. So now I'm able to see the list of quote unquote tasks within that step. So if any of you are familiar with Gradle build caching, Gradle, the most atomic piece of work in Gradle builds is a task. And so that's what we are able to see here. I'm able to see that many of my tasks are cached 100% of the time, or the hit rate for them is 100%. And then if I scroll down, I'm able to see that many of my tasks which were run are not being cached at all. So at this point, I would basically need to change my build config to ensure that more of these uncached tasks are being cached. And that's how, as I said, cache hit rate can help, or rather monitoring your cache hit rate can help ensure that your caching setup is optimized. I think in terms of like a walkthrough of Bitrise Insights, I think that's it. I've got a bonus slide for you all. So we are bringing some more metrics to Bitrise Insights very soon. So the two capabilities you see here, the two types of metrics you see here are Git Insights and Release Insights. So Git Insights, Git Insights is going to be, or the value proposition there is for the users of Bitrise Insights to boost your Git collaboration, accelerate your productivity and code quality even more. And for release, it will be looking into your release-related data, including things like your release cadence, app updates, and your development cycles. So these are some new metrics that we are going to bring to life with Bitrise Insights. And I'm curious if any of you have any thoughts or feedback on whether you're currently measuring your Git collaboration or your release cadences. And yeah, would be great to hear some feedback on these. And you can reach out to me separately outside of this call, or we can use the Q&A section as well for this. I think that's it in terms of what I have for you today. Let's take some questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And let's see if we have some questions in the Q&A area. All right, no async questions. I'm happy to take some live questions, in which case. Thank you, Sebastian. All right. So thanks all for joining. I hope this was useful, and I look forward to hearing some feedback from you async. There is one more poll that has come up. All right. I think the deck should be available after the call as well. We'll reach out to you if you're interested. And for those who are interested in seeing a demo, again, we will reach out to you as well. I see some of you are interested in a trial. If you need, so Bitrise offers a 30-day free trial. So if you want to try it out for free, you have a month to test things out there. Or if you'd like us to help you with your trial, again, we can do that as well. All right then. Thanks all for joining in. Have a nice rest of your mornings, afternoons, evenings. Take care.